talking on the phone with my mom. Okay, hey guys, so hopefully you can see really well. And once again, I will have forgotten to turn off my microphone. So let's go see what everybody's saying. Okay, hey everybody. Here we are for our live show. Kaya has sewn herself into her costume. What is your costume for?
Nothing really. It's just a costume.
It's just a costume? Well, it's lovely. Gypsy Lee said, good afternoon, Julie. I just ordered my Get Dirty shirt. Oh, thank you. I hope you like them. I've been really impressed with their quality. Usually I am only a black shirt girl. I love dark colors because they don't stain, but I've been wearing all my Get Dirty shirts all over the place, and they've been really, it's been nice to have something new instead of just wearing black. Let's see. Marie Weiss made it. Deborah Smith made it. Vincent Shemp made it. Wholesome Roots made it. Hello. Homesteading the Pioneer Way made it. Jeanne Miller said she's in. Equally Wrong said good afternoon. Okay, so today I'm actually getting back to like my crafting type stuff. I don't know if you can even see it. Let's see. I probably better go back to Hangouts to even see if I'm in frame. So the girls are doing a whole bunch of crafting this afternoon. I am knitting for Melanie over at the Honeydew Carpenter. They are getting more of the Rocket Mass heater finished, and I was supposed to have this hat off to her for Christmas, and it's warmer back home than it is here, and I never got it done because when I broke out in my autoimmune reaction, I was reacting to wool, which was really scary for me because I love to knit. I love to spin, and so the fact that I couldn't touch wool there for a couple weeks because it was causing a reaction was really scary. Journey Acres made it. Hello. Donna DeMar made it. Hello. Allison Lusterino said knitting can pile up fast. It is so true. Flying VS Farms made it. Hello, hello. Okay, guys, so what do we want to talk about today? I'm trying to think if, oh, we got rabbits. You guys already saw that we were working on cages. So that's the new thing. The first set of cages was terrible. It looked like total homeschool project. We didn't know what we were doing. Mostly what happened was is the bottom of the cage is a different, everything on the bottom of the cage is different in size from what's on the sides because the stuff on the bottom is smaller. It's 1 by 1.5. The ones on the side are 1 by 2. And then it's taller than it needs to be for a single cage. So anyway, we were having to work out the math of the cages. We have one cage that turned out looking really strange and wonky. So we built a new cage, and I put one of those drop-down nests in it because what happens is when baby bunnies are born, they wiggle a lot. And if you have them in a normal nesting box and they hold on to a nipple from mama and she accidentally, pulls them out of the nest when she hops out, they will freeze to death in cold weather. And so if you have a drop-down box where you have a wire box below the level of the main floor and you put a cardboard box in it, then it means that they're very wiggly creatures. They'll wiggle and wiggle, and they'll actually flop themselves back down into the box. And what's happened is we have one mama who hasn't given birth yet, and she has laid claim to that box, and she lives in there because it's cold outside. We have it all feathered up with paper and other things to keep her warm, and she likes to be there because she's used to living in a Warren system, which is in the ground. Let's see. Wholesome Root said, I need to get into fiber arts. I love fiber arts, especially in the winter, because when I don't have chores to do, when the girls are working on homeschool, or when I'm just sitting here working on the computer and my hands are not busy, I love to have knitting to do so that I have something productive to show at the end of my work time. So I don't know if you guys can see that. Melanie over at Honeydew Carpenter loves, what's the name of the one she loves? What's the name of the really bright green color that has the weird name?
Teal? Is it greenish blue?
It's the same. It's Natalie over at Namaste Farm. Her favorite, chartreuse. Chartreuse. She loves chartreuse. And so I was trying to take the fiber that I had and it has more blue in it than I wanted, and it has some pink, which she doesn't like, but it was what I had at the time. And if you guys know, pre-dyed bats of wool are very expensive. Usually for 4 ounces, it's like $28, which is not very much wool at all. But a lot of work goes into dyeing wool. And so I generally, when I make a project for somebody, I try really hard to pull from my stash rather than buying new stuff because it gets really expensive. Gypsy Lee said, old socks make good bedding for rabbits too. That's a good idea. Farmer Alarm said, any plans on doing any tiny house tours in the future? Tours on other people's houses or tours on houses I have that are tiny. So the house that we're in right now is tiny, very small, 4 people in, what did we decide, 20 by 25? Our house that we're in is about 20 by 25. And so what you can see through there is the girls' bedroom / living room. We have food storage shelves built up on 2 sides, on both sides of the living room. And then we have futon type cushions on top of that. So there are couches, but it's also where the girls sleep. And we have food storage under it. So I could do more tours of the tiny house that we're in now. And then we have our tiny house back home. That's our little tiny house cabin. But having lived in them, I would have to say that there's a lot to be said for getting a tiny house that's meant to be a tiny house, that was professionally built to be a tiny house, because of the way that they organize the storage, the way they organize the bedrooms, if there are bedrooms. The floor plan makes such a huge difference. We had some tiny houses that we visited that were amazing as tiny houses. They were the same square footage, but the design made such a huge difference in the livability. Some of them felt spacious, and some of them were so cramped you couldn't wait to climb out of them. And so if we were to do a tiny house as a long-term living situation, I would look really hard into some of these actual tiny house manufacturers. Not gonna clap on the camera, okay? I would look, but they're gonna cost you anywhere from like $40,000 up to $120,000 to get one of those special tiny houses. Again, the one that I like the best, what was his name? The video that I have is the King of Tiny House Design, and it was in Arizona. Honey, please stop clapping. What was the name of his? Was it Alpine or Aspen? What was it? I'd have to go look. He had the best design for a tiny house that was going to have a family in it, because it had 2 bedrooms. You had the sleeping loft that was for parents, and then you actually had a ground floor bedroom with bunk beds.
What made that design so wonderful was there was no transitional space.
Yeah.
There was no hallway, no
hallway
segment from bedroom to kitchen.
Open living space, and I think that the laundry in the bathroom was in the kids' bedroom, if I remember.
Laundry was in the bathroom.
Laundry was in the bathroom.
Underneath the kids' bedroom.
Oh, okay.
The kids' bedroom was in one loft, parents in another loft. Just really well thought out.
Frankie Robertson said, I have a question. Throughout all of your expeditions, have you ever come across anyone with a piano off-grid?
Off-grid piano?
Well, a piano doesn't need to have electricity, but I don't think we ever were in a tiny house that had a piano. But I think with tiny houses, you kind of take whatever your priority is and make that your priority in the tiny house. Make sure, if you're going to spend the money on it, make sure it's designed around exactly what you want it to be. Where you'd have something that heavy in your house, you'd have to have it strapped down, and you'd have to have equal weight on the other side of the trailer, so you were not causing a weight difference between one side of the trailer and another. So your person who, if you wanted a tiny house that was going to be able to move, you would need to factor that in to being able to move it. What?
My thoughts on that would just be to get a decent solar system, some batteries, and get a good keyboard.
Yeah, that's a thought.
Yamaha keyboards are lightweight and they're smaller.
Yeah, if you're going to be off-grid, have a generator or something else for your piano playing time, and then you don't have to account for weight. Serrato Wood said, I've toyed with the tiny houses, but my husband is 6'4" and 250 pounds. I'm not sure if it would work for us. There was one that I saw when we were at Tumbleweed Houses, and that was exactly what it was built for. It was built for a very tall couple. They had no sleeping lofts. There was no storage upstairs. There was no upstairs. Everything was on the main floor, and it was designed that way because they didn't want to have to be walking upstairs, and they wanted plenty of headspace. So if you're just a couple, you don't have children, then you wouldn't have to worry about that need for extra space, extra sleeping space, and that kind of thing. Ned Law said, I'm looking at building on a lot with 4 by 40 foot steel storage containers, single story. And what city was it? Was it Italy, Texas?
No, it was Dome. That was down halfway to San Antonio, between San Antonio and Austin.
Did you remember what the name of the company was? If you go look up in my old videos, you could go look up storage container hunting, tiny house hunting lodge, or there was also one that was for veterans.
Veterans Ranch, is that it?
Under the same company name, so
Is it Veterans Ranch?
No, but the video would be. And I do have like the location of them. And what they did is they took the storage containers, shipping containers, and built them into like hunting blinds. They built them into homes for veterans. And then he has an Airbnb on his property that he built out of 3 shipping containers. And we stayed in that for a couple days, and it was fantastic. Honey, you just took away all my light for filming. Thank you. Put it all the way up. Daddy, can you open the other one too? I'm suddenly a little low on light. And so we stayed in it for a couple days. They had netting over the top that was for kids to sleep on or to play on. They had 2 bedrooms in it, and it was actually very nice, very luxurious, and we really enjoyed our stay there. They had it up on like a post and pier situation. I don't think they had it on a regular foundation. It was more of the pillar system. Alarm Farm said, we are building a school bus conversion. If you guys haven't seen a Farm Alarm yet, you should go check out their channel. We just did a collaboration with them about why farm kids need chores. They have a fantastic channel. Their thumbnails are already vibrant. They have really interesting videos. So they're not a new channel that's starting out that is kind of still in the ugly duckling stage. They're a well-established, fantastic channel with lots of information. So Farm Alarm, you should go check them out. Gypsy Clipper said, I live in a 7 foot 5 inch. What, honey? Did you want to say it for me? 7 foot 5 inches by 24 foot shuttle bus. Becky 0512 is here. Hello. Frankie Robertson said, thank you. The reason I asked because I wanted to know, not necessarily for a tiny house. Well, if you're not in a tiny house, you could just bring in a piano. I mean, there would be no reason to not bring in a piano. Uncle Mikey's Crazy Artistic Homestead Madness says, howdy y'all. Hello. Interesting handle. Ned Law said, I saw your container video. It was awesome. I'm soldering my solar cells together and thinking of building water collection system. Cool. You should go check out Doug and Stacy, Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. Their water collection system off of their barn is pretty amazing. They have a cistern. Joanne Reed made it. Hello. Gypsy Lee says, Julie, an idea for your video background. Have you tried making a wood frame and stapling fabric to the size of your wall? It can't be stored away. That is a good idea. Somebody else also said to do it as a blind system that could be raised and lowered. I don't mind having the fabric on the wall. I just I do need to finish it, and I do think it would look better finished on some kind of frame system. I just feel like it's awfully dark. It was the only color I could find that felt at all complimentary, but I'm struggling with how dark it is. But yeah, I could totally put it on a frame, and I could probably decorate the edges and make it look a little bit better. Girls, can you go have some frozen fruit, please?
No,
okay,
Dad
so both of you girls go have some frozen fruit, please.
So that just hurt, didn't it? That's what I said.
Thank you. Flying VS Farm said it would be good for off-grid, a piano though, not a keyboard for off-grid, exactly. Mid-Century Micro Farm said, hey girl, glad to see you live. Well, thank you, I'm glad you can make it. Gypsy Clipper said, your kids are so well behaved. Mom's losing it right now. We've had some really cold weather here. We've had a couple days that were really nice and warm, and then we've had lots of days that have been really cold. And that is one thing in a tiny house that can be interesting. It's good because you're all close together. You're kind of monitoring them, more hands-on about what you're teaching them. But after several hours during the day of that kind of closeness, it doesn't matter how cold it is, they're going outside to play. And we've been struggling with that a little bit the last few days. Farm Alarm said, how is your geodesic greenhouse doing? You know, I don't know. My renters back home are planting in our regular conventional greenhouse right now. I would assume that our geodesic greenhouse is fine. I strapped things down with furring strips really well before we left, closed everything up. And so if the work that John takes is back home in Idaho, we have a greenhouse. The renters also have a greenhouse. So we won't be fighting over space in a greenhouse. Both of us have equal amounts of space, and they're both prepped. But I do love those little tabs. If I've asked Bogdan if we could please get some more and put links up for where he's selling them, but I haven't been able to get a hold of him. But I think they're brilliant. We have taken it down and put it back up twice now, and we have a lot of wind back in Idaho. And because the geodesic is a round shape rather than a square shape, the plastic on the geodesic holds up a lot better than it does on the greenhouse that we have attached to the front of the tiny house, which that's just a wind barrier, snow barrier place for me to work in the winter. And once it gets to be summer, I will take that plastic down. The geodesic dome is more for growing in. Thank you, Gypsy Claire. That's really nice. Doug's Little Farm said, we built a 12 by 24 foot tiny house in an existing pole building, working out great except for a frozen water drain. Yeah. And we don't have water on our tiny house. We have the well that's separate from the house. So you have to walk a few yards to get water. And it's the reason why we didn't install water was we knew that there was a good chance it would be very temporary because John would be coming to school and we'd be following him. So I really didn't want to go to the expense and hassle of putting in water when we already had a hand pump so close to the house. So we do not have those amenities at the tiny house. Instead, we use an outhouse, like a porta potty, in order to get around legal issues of having a regular outhouse where we are. And we took all the shower water and everything and used it to water trees. We used cast iron soap so that we weren't hurting the trees with the soap. And we just kind of played camping for the summer is what we did. Duncan 1900 Homestead said, where's a good place to buy a scythe? Go to Scythe Connection. I think it's scytheconnection.org. They're fantastic. That's where I got my scythe. And the blade that I have is like a 60-year-old blade. They don't make them that way anymore. So the one that I have is an amazing tool, and I'm so glad that we got it, even though at the time we were using tax return money to get it, and it was very expensive. All told, for my whole, like the snap, the blade, the peening kit, everything that came with it, it was $350. But it is, in my mind, an essential homestead tool. It is amazing. You can make your own hay. You can cut down weeds. You can cut grass. I just think it's an amazing tool. I do much better with it than I do with the weed whacker, because all I have to do is sharpen it, whereas with the weed whacker I have to have some kind of fuel to put into it, whereas if I eat enough during the day, I can go out and scythe all day long. Let's see. Mid-century microfarm, she said she's the eat sign language love. Mine too, yes. So somebody else had a sign language baby, yes. When Paige was little, we did teach her sign language. Mine too, yes. Just sent 2 of mine out because of cabin fever. It is a real thing, folks. It is a real thing, especially when you're homeschooling. Mama 2 Cups said, I live in a 12 by 12 tiny house with a 3-year-old and 3-month-old. Come back warm days, right? The tiny house is wonderful, but it's location, location, location with the tiny house. If you don't have enough outdoor space and outdoor things to go and be involved in, a tiny house is a bad idea. It's like a studio apartment in New York City. You don't want to be stuck in it with a couple of kids and a dog. You really don't. Hey, Mom, how are you? I was on the phone with my mom when I remembered I had a live stream. So we were having a good conversation about homeopathics, and we were talking about the meaning of life. And then I'm like, oh, darn it. I'm supposed to be on at 3. So that was nice of you, Mom, to come in. Doug's Little Farm said, I'm using an IBC tote with an RV pump for water. Gotcha. We used a lot of IBC totes. We cut them open and use them as shelters for goats. I've attached them to a pallet. So I cut a door in it, and then I screw with washers into a pallet so that the wind can't blow it away. And then I use that as a greenhouse in the spring as an IBC tote. If you put water, like jugs of water around your plants at night, it'll keep them from freezing. We've done that a couple times. Nedla said, I got to get y'all. Just thought I'd say, hey, y'all rock. See you next time. Thanks for hopping in. KL Ranch with Susan said, about how much does it cost to have a water well? It really depends on where you are. Not even every state is going to be different. Every county is going to be different, depending on what your soil is like and how low your water table is. And if you have saltwater encroachment coming in, like on the coast, a lot of times they'll have salt water coming into fresh water. Sometimes because of drilling, sometimes just because that's just what happens is salt water can get into fresh water. So it really just depends on where you are and what is available to you. In our area, I think it's like somewhere between 3,000 and 10,000. More than that? I don't remember. I know one of the reasons I'm so careful with water and that we use our canal water so much, one, we've already paid for the canal water, but two, if we used our well water, then it would suck our well dry to try and water our property. And so our neighbors gave us wise counsel when we first got there. They said, don't water off your well, use the canal water. And they have their old well. We have our old well, and anybody around us that waters with their well had to go get a new well dug, new well drilled. And so listen to the old timers around you when they tell you what to do. Speaking of which, Laurie from Straw Family Farm said that as tick season approaches, make sure you're taking brewer's yeast because it will keep ticks from attaching to you. I'm a little concerned about tick season.
Speaking of old timers, is that where that?
She got it from her grandma.
Oh, gotcha.
Christy from Straw Family Farms. Her grandma said, always take your brewer's yeast during tick season because it means you won't get ticks. No, she's just getting information from her grandma. Gypsy Lee said, I inherited my scythe from my great-grandfather. I don't use it, but it is on my wall under his picture. That's awesome. Tara C said, have your kids ever been in 4-H? Nope. We tried to sign them up when we first started homeschooling, but it seems a little, not totally ridiculous, but a little bit ridiculous for farmers to do 4-H if it's to teach the kids. I think if farm kids are going to 4-H, it's more for the social outlet and for the showing outlet rather than learning about the animals. And for us, it was just too much on my plate to try and take kids to 4-H activities and to shows. And we have a tendency to raise our bum lambs and stuff. A lot of them we sell after we get them started, or we stick them on goats so that the goats raise them, because I don't like to get attached to animals that I'm going to use for meat. And so we don't really have I took 4-H as a kid. I did 4-H with my lambs and with my horse, and I did 4-H with like cooking courses and stuff like that. And as a homeschool kid, it was really fun to do 4-H. It was a good social outlet. And I think if you're really good at keeping records, it's great for the kids to practice keeping records and then to be able to sell their livestock. I think that's really valuable. For me, it felt like I never had that kind of time to be able to sacrifice to drive them to things. And again, because our diet is very restrictive. Should I say restrictive? Our diet is very special. It was very difficult for me to try and put food together that we could eat, that we would stay healthy on. And a lot of events like the showing and stuff like that, it just would have been a lot. So no, the kids have not done 4-H. Deborah Schneck said, dinner time here, super busy, so I'll listen later to the whole thing, but wanted to say hi and thanks. Oh, thank you for popping in. Jimbo81 came in. Peace and hugs from Nedlaw.
Speaking of food restrictions, BJ's Stacy down a little bit was talking. I had trouble with oatmeal. says every time I
Yes.
eat it upsets my GI tract.
We used to eat oatmeal back home. I didn't eat the oatmeal, but I would let the kids still eat it. I was trying really hard not to over limit what the kids could eat. And if they could eat it, I wanted them to be able to. But what happened is that I was letting the girls eat grains that were not gluten. And Kaya always had a sinus infection. She always had a drippy nose. And she would wake up in the night and not be able to breathe, even though she didn't have gluten. She was just eating oatmeal. And so her sinuses were so messed up with any kind of grain that we eventually did take oatmeal out to, which is very sad because we like oatmeal. But we just had to find other things to replace it, which we have. Didion 256 says, when does John's formation end? When does your formation end? He's turning into a butterfly. It should be done in June. That's what we're really aiming for, really hoping for is June, because then we could know whether we're going to be here or Idaho or where John's work will be. And that way we can set down some good roots and know which direction we're going in. Mama 2 Cubs said, we just got 2 American guinea hogs. We keep busy. That is awesome.
Susan Carmichael is asking, what is a bum lamb?
A bum lamb is a lamb that has been rejected by its mother that needs to be fed on a bottle. And for us, what we do is we start some on a bottle and we sell them to 4-H kids, but we keep 2 lambs for ourselves and we graft them onto a mama goat who's just had babies. We sell her babies if we're not keeping them for the genetics. If we're already selling the babies, then we put them on the new mama, and then she thinks that they're her babies, and we don't have to bother with bottles. She loves them, they love her. And then when it comes time to do what happens on a farm, which is to harvest the animals, then there's not that horrible attachment of them thinking that we're their mother. And that's one of the hardest things you can do to yourself or to an animal, is to put an animal into your freezer and to have such a strong emotional connection with them that goes both ways. That's very difficult. So we let mama goats raise them. Let's see. C. Charleston said, do you always compost your rabbit manure? Also, how long would you wait to add plants if you put manure straight in the garden? Love your channel. Keep up the good work. So with my rabbit manure, I use it as mulch around my raspberries, and it works very well there as mulch. It keeps grass out and feeds the plants. With the rest of that, if I have trees, I will soak the manure in water and then use rabbit manure tea on trees. I don't generally waste it on fruit trees as a direct fertilizer. But in my hotbeds, what I'll do is I will compost the rabbit manure in the hotbeds, and then over time, as that compost that is keeping the bed hot is breaking down, once it's cool, by that time the roots of the plants will have got down, and so it will fertilize the bed, but it won't actually be in direct contact with the plants. I have occasionally used rabbit manure in direct contact by having it mixed into the soil, but I prefer it to be underneath the planting medium as something that's breaking down carbon.
Sunny DIY says, hey, ended up late anyway. It's okay, you're not the only one.
Right. Okay. Frankie Robertson said, how long have you been knitting? On my to-do list, I have a full bag yarn. So I have been knitting since I was 9, I think. My aunt taught me when I was 9. And I did learn how to spin in 4-H. We used a pencil and half of a potato to make a drop spindle. Not Normal Tree says, I want to meet your mom. My mom is amazing. Marcel Speaks said, take what for ticks? Okay, so Christy over at Straw Family Farm, her grandma taught her that if she would take brewer's yeast, which is the same yeast that they use in making beer, if you take that in pill form, that it will keep ticks from embedding in you. That you might get ticks on you, but it'll keep them from embedding, and that's what she said.
Sacred Wonders, Maine. What, if anything, does one do with wild mullein?
With wild mullein, what we use wild mullein for, and I'm not a doctor and I cannot give medical advice, but what we use mullein for is that you take the rose, I take, not you, I take the rosette leaves as the plant is first starting to wake up in spring. You take the soft, immature rosette leaves and you dry them, and then you use them to make a tea. If you have bronchial problems, if I have bronchial problems or lymph, it's good for lymph. It's good for drainage of sinuses. It's good for me, and lungs. And you do want to run it. I do want to run it through a coffee strainer before I drink it, though, because it has little hairs on it that can irritate me.
Following has not been approved by the FDA.
The following has not been approved by the FDA. That's what I use it for. I had great success with mullein when I was having problems with sinus infections and things like that. So that's what we harvest it in the spring, and we keep a big steady supply on hand. I do run a knife down the middle rib to open it up when I dehydrate it. And I do have a video on that. It'll look up Dirtpatcheaven herbal dehydrating, and it should be there somewhere. Robin South said, we only had one rabbit, but we just put it on top of the garden. And rabbit manure is a cool manure, so you can put it on top of the garden. The only thing you want to be concerned about is that if you're feeding them anything that has seeds in it, or if they have parasites, you are spreading that onto your garden. So do it at your own risk. It's why I prefer to compost it first and not have it in direct contact with food. Gypsy Lee said, I use clove bud oil or citronella oil on my clothes to keep ticks and other bugs off me when hiking. Yeah. BJ Stacy said, with your food restrictions, I'm curious if you've ever had trouble with oatmeal. Oh, we are just, wow, how far up am I?
Way.
Okay, I'll skip down.
Holy, hey, ladies and gentlemen, she hit the blue button.
Yeah, Marcel Speak said, no, brewer's yeast and nutritional yeast are not the same thing. Brewer's yeast is used for making beer, but you can get it in fact, I think that's what, what's the Australian savory spread? It's, no, it's the dark stuff. I believe that's made from nutritional yeast.
Oh.
What's it called? The Australian nutritional yeast that's a spread. Vegemite. If I remember correctly, Vegemite is actually nutritional yeast. Christy Betts made it. Hello. Life's Bounty Homestead Cheryl says, I'm just learning to spin. I've been looking for fiber on Amazon, and it seems to be all be felted. Is that what I need to purchase for spinning? No, you don't want it felted. You want it should be called roving or bat. But the best place to get it, if you want really high quality, just fleece, go to Natalie from Namaste Farm. She also has her scrap boxes that are dyed, and she does have some roving in her boxes. Another good place to get it for cheap, you can go to Paradise Fibers. They have a lot of roving. Kamaj Fiber, she has some really good prices on roving. You can do a group buy through them. So those are all really good places to get it. Gypsy Lee said Vegemite, right?
Tracy Frederick at the bottom says, what do you like doing with lemon balm?
I like to make tea out of it. Marie Vice said, I put dried mullein leaves around my veg plants and in compost. Yeah, you can do that too. Not Normal Tree said, neti pot. I have used a neti pot. Gypsy Lisa Tracy, I use lemon balm and tea as a tincture and as an astringent for my face. Frankie Robertson said, thank you so much for your channel. I first came across your channel via Doug and Stacy. I do love Doug and Stacy. Life's Bounty Homestead Cheryl said, thank you so much. I will try your suggestions.
Somebody was saying, hold up your knitting and show them.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's good. Only your mom.
Huh?
It was only your mom.
Oh, my mom did? I didn't see. See, that's what happens when I skip questions. Should I get the spool? I can show you the whole spool.
It's a pretty shape.
Okay, can you turn down the heat, please? So this is the, I don't know if they'll be able to see it though. It's kind of light. Can they see it?
Well, I got it on low res, so that I wasn't interrupting the stream. But
is that close enough?
It's a beautiful teal and purple and pink
Kaya, can you turn the heat down, please? What? Go sit at the table and turn the heat down, please. I don't know if I'm holding it. There we go. Okay, so that's what I'm knitting currently. Kale Ranch with Susan said, I'm really trying to grow my hair naturally and fast, but some of the shampoo would you recommend? And thank you for the oil treatment video. I've started that. So the shampoo that I do really well with is the Giovanni's, and it's the 50/50 clarifying shampoo from Giovanni's at the health food store. And I like that, and their conditioner that goes with it. And then afterwards, I'll use the apple cider vinegar rinse, which is 1 or 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in a quart of water, cool water. So after you've washed your hair, after you've conditioned your hair, then you pour the cool water with the apple cider vinegar in it over your hair, and then you rinse that out. And it does amazing things if your hair follicles are if there's buildup around your hair follicles. For a while, I was using a lot of hair products back in the day. A couple years ago when I was doing videos, I was using so much dry shampoo and hairspray and everything. And what had happened was I had this big spot here that I couldn't get the dry shampoo off. And it was, when I would try and brush it out and get it off, it was actually taking hair off. So I had this big bald spot that was always bleeding. It was so gross and so awful. And so the way that I took care of that was with the apple cider vinegar rinses. It clarified things. It stripped off the dry shampoo plus the hairspray. And then I would use really intensive oil treatments on my hair with lavender essential oil. And that is on my Natural Happy channel if you want to go check that out. But anyway, it healed. And I did used to have a really big scar from it. It was horrible and traumatic and ugly. And I was getting dandruff. I'd never had dandruff. So all those products we put on our hair really mess up our actual natural, beautiful hair and makes it not shiny. So that's the shampoo I use. Sorry. What were we talking about? Gypsy Lee said, I love Avalon Organics Lavender or Rosemary shampoo. My mother-in-law likes those, and I think they're nice too. Steve Johnson said, how's Mr. Dirt doing with school? He's studying for a big test today that he's going to take tomorrow. Wednesday. He's taking another big test. So he could use prayers. He wants some prayers for that. We did pray really, really hard, but he was 8 points shy, and it was a really, really rough test. Lots of unpredictable factors, and so we're praying that he can get it this time. Sacred Wonders Maine said, those are lovely colors. Are you making a sweater? No, I am making a hat for Melanie over at Honeydew Carpenter. I was supposed to have it done for her by Christmas, so you can see how far behind I got. I actually had the yarn finished before Christmas, but then I got that breakout of rash where I actually couldn't touch wool for a couple weeks because it was making me break out in hives. So this is the first time I've touched it since then, since I got sick, and it's kind of exciting in a silly way. Robin South said, did you spin that yarn or buy it? If it bought, where did you get it? I would love a pair of socks out of it. I made this yarn. The fiber that I got from it was from the spinning box, which is sold by Kamaj Fiber, and really nice wool. But yeah, I did spin it myself. If you guys are interested in spinning wheels, you're welcome to go over to dirtpatcheaven.com, or no, Etsy store. Etsy store is Dirtpatcheaven on Etsy. And I might have it in the link below, but I don't know. Farm Alarm said, do you guys ever make melt and pour soap? We haven't. My mom used to make soap. She made our laundry soap from scratch with lard and everything. But I'm ashamed to say that everywhere we go, people give us soap. And so I have this big box full of homemade soap that I have from all these wonderful women across the country when we made our big trip. And so even though I have the ingredients to be able to make my own soap, I don't make it because I keep being given these wonderful gifts of soap. I'm so spoiled. There's like first world problems as a homesteaders. I don't have to make my own soap because all my beautiful girlfriends give it to me. Revi said, can't wait to make elderberry syrup. I'm actually planning on planting some elderberry bushes while we're here. It's one of the few bushes that I feel like they're not such a huge investment that it's a bad idea to plant them at a rental, so I'm kind of excited. Hey, Danny Bull made it. Kale Ranch with Susan said, sending prayers to Mr. Dirt. Thank you so much. Kitty's Market made it from the Philippines and Norway. How
Those
can
are a
you be
little
in the
bit of-
Philippines and Norway at the same time?
I was just thinking those are apart.
Food for That said, have been away from YouTube for a while, but love all your videos. So glad to see you live. Good luck for your test. Oh, thank you. That was kind.
Yes, thank you.
Pumpkin Patch 1993. Hey, I'm a new subscriber. Hello and welcome. Ash is here from Northern Ireland. Hello. Marie Weiss says, me too, Julie. Me too. Which part?
I think she's talking about the soap part.
Oh, the soap part? The Ask Mama channel said hot process the best. I don't remember which process my mom used. I was 11 when she made such a massive batch of soap that until I was 29, we never ran out of laundry soap. That was a lot of soap. It was, and it stank. It stank so bad. Eastern Washington here. That's awesome. Sacred Wonders Maine said, blessings, Mr. Dirt. Good luck. Ah, Kitty's Market said, I'm a Filipina married to a Norwegian. That's awesome. We have friends who just went to the Philippines. Rihanna and Pat, they just got back from the Philippines. They said it was so beautiful. Oh, Marie Weiss is planting elderberry plants. Gotcha. Did you go over to Rain Tree Nursery? They have the actual cultivars that are developed, and they apparently they actually taste good. A lot of elderberry plants are not sweet. They don't really taste very good, but the ones over at Rain Tree Nursery are supposed to be really good. And Kitty's Market said, we live here in Norway. It is beautiful there. The Ask Mama channel said, Joanna Muse here. Hello. Chuck Pennington said, like your stuff. Thanks. You're welcome. Grace Homestead said, what is Mr. Dirt in school for? Praying for his success.
We're just typing in the response. So it's cybersecurity with, I guess, what you would call a minor in software development.
Sacred Wonders Maine said, you have a healthy site? Oh, sorry. Natural Happy. My more of like glamour, the natural way site is Natural Happy, capital N, all one word, capital H, happy. Natural Happy, all one word, capital N, capital H. I'll see.
It's a channel on YouTube.
And it's a channel on YouTube, and I have makeup and hair stuff on there. I haven't put a lot on there because farming is my first love. I do love to play with natural cosmetics and that kind of thing. I think it's really fun. But it's not my first love. It's a fun thing I tinker with on the side. Sunny DIY, hello. What are your thoughts on moringa tree for animal? Oh, where did you go? Moringa tree for food. I was planning on trying it this year for a topper of fodder food, just up the protein a bit. Not sure if it would be wasted effort though. I know that my opinion is if you can feed it to people, you can feed it to animals, unless it's something like chocolate with dogs where it's actually poisonous. So I would say look into it, but I know that a lot of people feed it to themselves. And so I would imagine it would be amazing for rabbits and goats, just amazing. If you saw my video a couple days ago, it was about comfrey, and comfrey is also good for livestock. Supposedly it can do liver damage if you feed them too much to people, but we fed our rabbits and our ducks and everybody quite a bit of comfrey, and we never saw, when we butchered our animals, we never saw any liver damage. But again, use it your own caution. But the people that I got my comfrey roots from is Marsh Creek Farmstead, and marshcreekfarmstead.com for comfrey that won't spread. Ask Mama channel said we have Oregon grape berries here. Awesome. That's supposed to be so good for you for like viral things. Oh, Marie Weiss said no, got them online. Can't remember from whom. LOL. Well, I usually get my stuff like that from coldstreamfarm.net because they're so inexpensive. All my wild crafting trees I got from there, and everything lived. They have an amazing, what's it called? Return policy. What's the word for that?
Satisfaction.
Warranty. They have a great warranty policy. Robin South said, what?
Sorry. They were the last thing we were thinking of.
I already said Vegemite.
Yes.
Robin South.
Warranty policy.
Oh, gotcha. Robin South said, absolutely good luck, John. School is tough the older you get. I feel your pain. Oh, funny. Okay, Farm Alarm said we have a good amount of lemon balm and mint growing in our carport greenhouse, and was thinking about ordering some good melt and poured goat milk soap. Oh, gotcha. Okay, somebody is saying something from somewhere else. Is it called kanji? Is that what the symbols mean? They look Japanese, Asian anyway. Idaho Hillbilly said, hi there. Are you guys in Eastern Idaho? We are not. We are still in Oklahoma while John is finishing school. And I have seen your channel, by the way. Shirley Withers said, hello. I am from Reno, Nevada. Hello, Shirley.
Yeah, he's up in that area. We'd like to live too.
The Ask Mama channel said, comfrey makes them sleepy, LOL. Marie Vice said, I use moringa green or moringa powder in green tea. And that's what, when we were in Florida, they grow moringa quite easily there. And it's almost what some people call like a pest plant. So they do it in a pollard system, which is the tree comes up, you cut it down, and then it breaks out into a whole bunch of smaller branches that are more productive than one straight up tree. And so they keep it in a pollard system so that they can harvest the leaves more effectively. The video for that one was the Kashi. What was the name of the Kashi video? Oh, how to do a back to Eden garden in Florida. Deep mulch back to Eden garden in Florida. If you look that up, Dirtpatcheaven, back to Eden in Florida, it'll be there, and it does show how they do their moringa and how they keep fire ants out of their deep mulch system, which is pretty neat too. West Tex Homesteading and Outdoors said the guy from Eco Ranch has videos on moringa trees. Thank you for that information. Oh, I went too far. Dang it.
Might be time to hit the blue button.
I can't. I keep missing things. Okay, Sunny DIY said, I have comfrey seeds and mullein seeds, but last year was such a bust I chose focusing on the animals first, but this year I'm growing them. So our last year on the homestead, not this last spring because we were there just to help the renters and do the tiny house, but the year we left the homestead, we switched from large animals to small animals. So instead of raising lamb and raising pigs, I went directly to ducks and rabbits. And we had a year that was equally, if not more productive, putting food into the freezer by me focusing on my garden and on small animals. And so I think however you have to do it, that's the way to do it. Kaya, can you please turn the heat down and go eat at the table? Thank you.
Gypsy Lee says, anybody near me in Southern Illinois? So we do have Michael R. He is over in that area. But
how are you not cold in here, Mom?
Honey, you need to go eat at the table. Pumpkin Patch 1993. I love farms. Hopefully we find a farm. We're currently looking for a farm. We do have some livestock like rabbits, and we are getting chickens. We grow our rabbits for meat. Good job. Do you guys have a channel? Pumpkin Patch 1993. Journey Acre said, my 8-year-old watching with me wants to let you know she loves all your videos. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad.
Somebody was saying hello from Japan.
Yeah. Marie Vice said, the freeze got my comfrey, I'm afraid. Well, the nice thing with comfrey is it just comes back. The roots are resilient. A lot of times we mulch up over the top of them, so they have to climb a little harder, a little higher early in the year because they just want to come up so hard. Okay, Lavender Deb said, love comfrey on Urban Farm, Everett, Washington. Often drink the tea without fear. Chickens love it. Now, if you guys are interested in medicinal herbs, go over to strictlymedicinalherbs.com. It used to be Horizon Herbs, and you can get official comfrey seeds and roots that are considered safer for human consumption. They don't recommend you have it for human consumption, but if you're going to take it internally, you want to get the official comfrey, not the Russian Backing. These statements have not been in any way tested for any other family. I'm just giving you a warning and telling you to go see Horizon Herbs or Strictly Medicinal Herbs because they changed their name. Hubbard's Hillside Homestead, West Virginia said, hi from West Virginia. Enjoy your channel. Thank you so much.
Do we want to explain that inside joke a little bit? To at least give them
for what?
FDA.
Oh, I don't want to get sued by you or the FDA because somebody does something silly.
Well, not just that, but the FDA has come out this week and decided that they're going to regulate homeopathic.
They're going to make it illegal. Okay, that was cool. Sunny DIY said the kanji said this, Katero poi, or hello from Japan. Hello from Japan. Or hello from Oklahoma. There we go. Joe Serrano said, hey, Julianne, I finally make one of your cool live streams. Hi to Mr. Dirt and your girls. Thank you so much.
Go.
Christy Bet said, do you have your rabbit? Wait, do you, wait. Where did it go? Okay, Christy Bet said, do you give your rabbits anything to prevent parasites? So the biggest preventative for parasites in rabbits is not to have them in the soil. Don't have them on the ground. If you do have them on the ground, there's not a whole lot you can do about parasites because that's where the parasites are. And especially if you have them in one place all the time, the parasites are going to build up. And if you move them, especially in a pasture system, the odds of them picking up parasites from other animals is pretty high. So the reason
have to be in a cage.
The reason that I raise them in a cage is because I would prefer that they didn't have parasites. And can you raise them on pasture? Yes. If you know about Joel Salatin, they do have pastured rabbits. What I prefer to do is that what I'll do is I'll go to the greenhouse and I'll harvest food for them that we're not going to get to. And so I feed them pumpkins and summer squash and kale and what's the really lemony one?
Lemon balm.
Not lemon balm. Sorrel. I feed them sorrel. So I feed them. I start them out that way. I always have some of the commercial pellets in because it's a balanced food as far as protein and minerals, that kind of thing. As long as I give them free choice for the pellets, they'll eat it when they need it. They'll eat what I give them, cuttings from fruit trees, pumpkins and stuff like that. They prefer to eat that, but if they need the pellets, they're there. Our first year that we tried to do rabbits where we were feeding them more from our property, they ended up being malnourished and we lost one whole batch of bunnies because at the stage where they're about 3 weeks to 3 months, they're growing so fast that their nutritional needs are very, very, very high. And so they can eat the wet feed, they can eat the vegetables from the garden, they can eat the trimmings from the trees, but you really need to make sure they have enough protein. And so what we did was like 25% of their diet was the special rabbit pellets, and the other 75% of their diet was crabapple tree trimmings, kale, turnip greens, pumpkins, summer squash, that kind of thing. And that worked really well for us. After we changed that way, so it was free feed for the pellets, and we would change out and give them as much of the other as they could eat and clean up in a day, we never lost a bunny to malnutrition. And what?
So in about 40 minutes, you catch up. Punky Rooster's got to go. So she's
bye, Punky Rooster. And so for our goats, we use the Fiasco Farm dewormer that's herbal, and we also use pumpkins. Pumpkin seeds are a dewormer. You can also use black walnut tincture, but it makes their water taste funny, so they have a tendency not to want to eat it. And we also use wormwood because we grew fresh wormwood. But be careful with the wormwood, especially with pregnant does. It can cause, I don't remember if it's liver or kidney damage. You don't want to give them too much, and you only want to give it to them at certain times in the month. And so mostly what we do is just preventative.
There's the conversation on chats going on about putting cider in various animals' water. Certain things.
I have heard of that. I haven't had a lot of success with that personally, with the apple cider vinegar. I drink it myself. I have tried at times to give it to animals, and I didn't see anything quantifiable that would make me necessarily share it with the wide world. But then I didn't try it repeatedly, and so that may be why I never really saw huge results with it. Go for Green Living said moringa is seasonal here. The Ask Mama channel said no sympathy for them warm states. How about a Zone 5 folks? Weather here so cold and short season for growing. Yes, Ask Mama channel. So we're from Idaho where we're Zone 3-4, and our season last year we had frost on the 28th of June, and then the frost comes back again in September. So we have a very short season, which is why I used hotbeds in the greenhouse. A greenhouse itself wasn't enough to extend the season. I needed the hotbeds, the heat from the hotbeds too. And so I would plant in February, and we would be harvesting full-blown harvest by the 1st of April with greens and radishes and carrots and stuff like that. So that's why we did the hotbeds, was because our season was so short. London's Worms and Garden. What a great name. Yeah, Marie Vice said, oh, good to know my comfort will come back. Thanks. Yes, it'll always come back. As long as you don't, you know, spray it and dig all the roots up, it'll come back. Katie's Market said, my husband said, nice to have met y'all. Have we met in person? I don't remember. Was that from church today?
Where?
Kitty's Market. I have a hard time keeping track, so you'll have to be patient.
So many people.
Pumpkin Patch says she'll do a video on her rabbit when it gets warmer. Good job. Punky Rooster taking off.
Yeah. I don't know. Hillbilly says it's been crazy nice in Idaho this year so far. And that's what I hear. We leave and it gets pretty open.
Sunny DIY said, ours are on the ground, but they look pretty healthy. I never see bugs on them, but I hear diet sometimes helps them fight things like that too. And for the moment they get show rabbit food. Yeah. We only have ever had one rabbit that had bad parasites. And we kind of found that, and this sounds horrible, but when animals are picking on one other animal, like if there's one animal in the group that's always getting picked on, a lot of times they have parasites, and it's more of like a self-defense mechanism with the other animals, that they're picking on that one animal because they want it to stay away because it has some kind of predisposition towards parasites. And that's not always the case, but it's what we found with rabbits. When we had an open warren system, we had one rabbit that came from a friend, and she kept him in an open warren system. So it turned out she was absolutely crawling with roundworms. It was so disgusting. When I ended up butchering her because she was listless and she was just strange. She acted really weird. And when I butchered her, I've never been able to open an animal up and just, I don't know how she was still alive because she was so full of worms. So obviously we did not hear. If you see parasites in your animals, you don't want to eat the animal. It means you will get them too. Sometimes you'll see things like liver spots on a large animal, and that just means that they have some damage in their liver. I think it's liver fluke, if I remember correctly, for that, but it just means don't eat their liver. That's the only parasite damage we've ever seen on our large animals was liver spots, and they just look like a white spot on the liver. The rest of their organs, their intestines, everything looked healthy. We never saw any signs of parasites. But with that one rabbit, that was just disgusting. And that was I think that was the only livestock. She had babies. She had babies in her, but the babies would have also had major problems. So when that one was just a mess. That made me really sad. West Tex Homesteading and Outdoor said, I'll harvest this tall stalk that grows out here in the summer from the side of the road, and I feed it to my rabbits. They love it. It only grows in ditches or where water collects. Is that your mullein? Is that the one with the yellow flowers? Let's see.
Christy Beth saying, oh wow, I need to go check my chicken and the others. She's the best forager though. Well, and if the rest of the flock isn't ganging up on a particular bird, then that's not the indicator that we have noticed. Is that how you want to say that?
Well, I know that, like with any livestock, you're always going to have the one animal, or you'll have a pecking order. You'll have a pecking order. But if you have an animal that acts erratic or is really like they'll stand and just stare and have their head hanging down, or they'll just sit and stare and they're not moving a lot. They just spend a lot of time just sitting and staring at nothing. If they don't have good energy, if they're always hungry, or if they're usually really quiet and silent, but then they have like this really spastic fit where they're running around in circles type of a thing, that's usually a sign that there's something weird going on. But with goats, there's a pecking order. It's not that everybody pecks on the one goat. It's more along the lines of you have the queen head of your herd and she picks on everybody else, and then the next one down picks on everybody under her. And so that's a pecking order, which is not the same as like all the animals group ganging up on one. Go for Green Living said, did you see the milk goat I'm getting? I didn't. Is that a recent video? Wolf Mountain Homestead made it. Hello, how are you? Christy Bett said she seems healthy. If they're acting normal, I think that's fine. Again, what you want to look for is like neurotic behavior. And it took forever for her to get pregnant. And then when she did get pregnant, what? Oh, thanks. It was sad that she was pregnant when we butchered her. We didn't know she was pregnant. She wasn't getting big and fat, and she was almost due, but it was awful. Sunny DIY said, we had a Flemish cross from a different place named Babs Maid. That was what happened to her. They didn't like her, and one day we found her dead. Everyone else seems to cuddle. Yeah. Well, and they're living organisms. There's always going to be something different that you learn as you go, and what you always are going to learn as you go what works for you on your own homestead. We had silver foxes were the second rabbits that we got. And they came as a breeding pair. She was pregnant, and she came with her buck. They were in separate cages, and she had an accident, and she died. The mom did. She stuck her head through part of a cage in the ceiling of the cage, and then choked, and it was terrible. And that's why I do my cages differently now. But the male then, within a week, he got really, really sad because she died. And so the buck got really, really sad. And then he died within a week after her dying, even though there was nothing wrong with him. And so there's never one tried and true lesson for everything when it comes to animals or people or farming or anything. You always have another way to learn, another layer to go to do better at what you're doing now.
Even if it was a true rabbit.
It was just, you can say the animals are not like people as far as emotions and stuff, but I've seen so many times like roosters that would take care of their mama hens, and they wouldn't eat food. They'd call their mama hens to the food, and then they'd show the mama hens the food, and then they'd just sit there and watch proudly while the mama hens would eat their food. And mama hens do the same thing with their chicks. And we had one goat that her babies were always born stillborn, and it was really sad. She never had a live birth. It didn't matter how prepared we were, ready to help her this time. They were always stillborn. And what she would do is she would nurse her mom. So she was an adult doe, and her mom was an adult doe. Her babies were always born dead, and she was so sad, and she would cry and cry and cry. And then her mom would deliver her kids for the year. And then Rebecca, her name was Rebecca, and Sarah was the mother. So Rebecca would then nurse her mother's babies. So her half sisters, she would nurse these babies, and would latch on. And we had another thing where we had a Nigerian dwarf doe that hers was the only milk we were feeding a buck that we had brought into our herd, and we were feeding him on a bottle. But because he smelled like her,
dragon?
huh?
Was that dragon?
No, that was, I don't remember what his name was. That was a long time ago. No, it was our first buck. So you would have been like 18 months old. You were still a baby yourself when we did this. So this Nigerian dwarf buckling was out in the same pasture with the goats, just so he wasn't lonely, but he was a bottle baby. Well, this mom was so insistent that he was her baby because he smelled like her, that we went out there one day and found that he had actually started nursing off of, even though he was a bottle baby, didn't know what teats were. She was so insistent about nursing him. She was going to force him to nurse. And he finally figured it out, and then we didn't have to feed him on a bottle anymore but he should have been too old. And that was one trick we found, was that if you want to graft a lamb onto a goat, you don't mix your goat's milk. You only milk from that one doe and use that to bottle feed the lamb. And then the lamb, after like 3 days, starts to smell like the mama goat. And so now when how mama goats will like reach around and smell the bum of the baby as it's nursing. Well, she's smelling to see, is this really my baby? It's a familiarity thing. And so that baby lamb will start to smell like that mama goat, and within 3 days she'll think that baby's hers, and she'll just adopt it. Even if her babies were born months ago, she'll still adopt the baby. And so there's all these little tips and tricks and things that you'll find along the way that people tell you they're impossible, but with practice and persistence and just being intuitive and luck, sometimes you just happen to observe it at the right time. Interesting things come from your animals. Anyway, Christy Vet said, I worked as a vet tech a long time. They will grieve themselves to death. It's so true. Robin South said, my dogs pair up, sleeping and cuddle. Jan Henderson said, is it true that female chickens have 2 layers of feathers in the front and behind the front feathers? I hope this makes sense. I watched a video on it today. So ducks have several layers. They have their outside layer of feathers, and then they have some softer feathers under that, and then they have the down. So they have lots and lots of feathers. Chickens, they kind of have 2 layers. They don't have the down the way that ducks do, but they do have kind of the outside slick feathers and then some fuzzier feathers underneath it. It's not really down, but it is kind of a different feather from the really slick ones on the outside. Hadar Rawi said, I'm always late to watch yours. I'm so sorry. It's supposed to be sending notifications. I guess it's not. Kaya, I need you to turn off the heat, please. Please turn it off. Not normal tree said, any problems you see in humans can show up in livestock. Brain damage, stroke, heart. We cannot assume they should be perfect. Yeah, you don't ever assume that your animals are going to be perfect. And there's no such thing as a perfect specimen. They have genetics just the same way that we do. Let's see. The Wolf Mountain Homestead said, I have a Pyrenees that is nursing my cats, LOL. And that kind of thing does happen. It really does happen. We had friends, a big dog. We had a friend who had sheep, and they had a dog that every time a new lamb would come in the house, the dog would go and lick and clean the lamb up and then curl himself up around the lamb to keep them warm and to love on them and take care of them. Who else? What else have we had that's interesting? We had a nurse cow that would take 4 calves on at a time when I was a kid. We had a tomcat that loved kittens and would curl up around kittens. And if we had rescue kittens that we took in. And I had a cat that used to, she would climb. She would.
Oh, that was Tiger.
It was Sammy. Tiger was the one that would climb on my shoulder when we milked. No, I was talking about Sammy. Sammy was the one that loved kittens. But Tiger, she liked to climb on things, and she would climb up on the roof of the house. She would climb on whatever was closest and tallest.
Yeah, he would climb up on Mom's shoulder when she was milking.
Yeah, she would climb on my shoulder and watch me milk while I milked. And she was very well behaved. She wouldn't stick her head in the milk or anything. And I have a couple videos. One of them is, I think it was tears at pig butchering time, and I was talking about how sad I was that the pigs are going to be butchered. And Tiger was on my shoulder, and she was trying to get in my face, so she had wrapped herself around my neck and was trying to put her face in my face in front of the camera. And I think that's what the video was called, Tears at Pig Butchering Time, something like that. And that was Tiger. We loved Tiger. She was a good cat.
She was nice.
And we had 4 litters of kittens, and actually just one, and we had 4 kittens in them. And then they had kittens, and now
lots of kittens.
Tigers.
We started talking cats.
Tigers. Tiger had 4 babies, and Paige insisted I had to give her 2. So I got to choose out the ones that I wanted first, and I chose the dark ones, and the boy was minivan cut, and since he kept on getting scratched up and cut since him and Paige and Bodie kept on getting in fights, and the girl was minivan.
Mm-hmm.
And mine was my girl.
Tiger Lily?
Yeah, Tiger Lily and Bodie.
Yes, thank you. Robin South said, thumbs up, everybody. Don't forget. Very true. Okay, what was I talking about?
Rabbits.
Christy Beth said, I'm considering raising meat rabbits, but concerned about how to handle that with my granddaughter. The way that we got around that was that when I would butcher rabbits at the beginning, I would make sure that the kids were gone. They'd go see the neighbor, and I would butcher the rabbits quickly. As they got older, the way we worked it was that they got their favorite rabbit out of each kindling to play with until the next kindling. And it kept them interested, and they would help with the butchering, but we wouldn't butcher their favorite rabbit. We'd hold on to that one, let it mature, see if it was one we wanted to use as a breeder. And that's how we got around that, was because it seemed like the kids were more fascinated by the baby animals than they were with the adults. And
we were.
Yes, it's
So
just kind of natural.
So they would keep one as a pet, and then by the time the new litters would come on, that one usually was no longer the cute one.
Was no longer fun. It had gotten to the big scratchy stage.
And so they would pick a new.
Yeah, so they'd pick a new one. So somebody asked if duck eggs are more nutritional than chicken eggs. I know that they have more protein in them. They're supposed to be very good for baking.
Better flavor.
We
Stronger.
really love duck eggs. We like duck eggs better than chicken eggs. Don't let our chickens hear us say that. Speaking of which, can you go get your shoes on and check for eggs, please? Because we're going to have frozen eggs out there.
Oh, the roll eyes.
Run, please.
I did it.
Run, please. This time of year, if you our hens always have laid about 10 o'clock in the morning. And so we let our chickens out and we let them walk around for a bit. And then I have the girls go check back about between 9 and noon. I have them check twice. And that way it doesn't give the eggs a chance to freeze. And so we have the occasional egg that freezes, but pretty much we managed to save all our eggs, even though it is in like the 20s out there. It's cold enough to freeze them for sure.
Yes, we have it on. Yeah, London Worms and Garden says a duck egg is a meal all in itself. That is so true.
So
Yeah.
a goose egg.
We would eat
A
one
goose egg.
goose egg.
We really liked goose eggs. They were huge, but it's hard to get them away from the geese because they're so hunky and mean and loud. And one thing we were always frustrated with was the geese, was that we'd have the drake in there, we'd have the geese in there, but it takes time for a goose and a gander to get into a relationship. And he's very faithful to her, and they're good together, but it can take a couple years for them to actually get into this relationship where they're effective at becoming parents.
Quite a few dates, lots of movies. He's got to be creative. She's got to warm up to him.
So if you have more than one goose in there for the gander, it slows things down. It's better to have them paired up as goose and gander together. Allow them to be. And then you've got some time invested there. So in my mind, it's a lot easier just to pull eggs out and incubate them if you want geese, or buy an established breeding pair of geese. Life Spouting Homestead, Cheryl said, I bought rabbit to try and see if I like the meat. Where I live won't allow chickens. I had 14 last summer and they told me I couldn't have them, so I want to try rabbits. With a rabbit, it really matters what recipe you use and what age the rabbit was. Our first rabbits that we butchered were disgusting. They were awful. And it matters how you butcher them. If they're super stressed out when you butcher them, it affects the meat. And so the way that we butcher is very, very fast. Very fast, over quickly, no pain, no screaming. If you do a rabbit the wrong way, they're going to cry. And it's a very bad experience for you. It's a very bad experience for the rabbit, instead of it being quick and they don't even really know what happened. After those first two rabbits, I got a lot of research under my belt. I found the way that I prefer to do it, and I stick with that now. Did you bring them in, honey?
Yeah.
Okay, you girls have messes to clean up, right? No, you're not going to come in and cuddle. You're going to go clean up your mess at the table so that we can function, please.
So, okay, so on dispatching bunnies, what was your thoughts on using the 22? I
have seen a 22 used.
We've used them. So.
I actually prefer the way that I do it because I know that they're dead. I know that they're not just, you know, unconscious for a second and they're going to come back. The way that I do, I know that they're dead, and I know that it's fast, and I'm very good at it. And so it's not that everybody needs to use my method. It's that very, very quickly figure out what your method is so that there's the smallest number of rabbits that have to suffer while you're learning how to do it the way you want to do it. Gypsy Lee's taken off to go do laundry. Thanks, guys. Well, okay, so check out links below. If you haven't already, I have the garden seeds from Am I Gardener. I'll put the link for the shirts in. If you like the Dirtpatcheaven shirts, this is not one. This is a Patriot shirt that I got from the secondhand store.
Because now that they didn't win the next Super Bowl,
I don't know.
You're finding it's...
Hey, Michael R. made it. Hello. Just in time for us to sign off. Robin South said, do you use the thing? Robin Sal said, do you use a thing that you put head in and pull down? I do not. I do not use that. Yes, rabbit tastes like chicken if it's butchered right, raised right, all that kind of stuff. Yes, the animal must be treated well in minimum pain. Aardvark says goodbye. Aardvark, you're a creeper just sitting in there watching without saying anything. Anybody ever tell you that? You're supposed to acknowledge your presence and say hello, neighbor. Anyway, okay, we're going to take off. I will put all the links below. And in the cards, I'll try and find some of those videos I was talking about that were all the stuff we were talking about. Yeah, Christy Betts said, I would really like to learn to butcher rabbits with an experienced person before getting rabbits. Yes, I think it's best to learn in a hands-on situation, not just in a video, if you have that as an option. However, I did do that.
Yeah, the next question is, do you have a video on processing of rabbits?
I used to, but I took it down because it got banned because people didn't like the cheerful music over the top of killing rabbits. Wolf Mountain Homestead said, do we have a P.O. box? No, you send it to the same P.O. box and they forward it to us. Have More Farm, how are you? And Have More Farm was lurking too. What is wrong with you people not saying hello?
It's the blue wrenches.
It's the blue wrenches. They just want to lurk tonight.
Well, they've wrenched their fingers to where
Again, if you're Southern, we're on March 10th. We're going to be in Mississippi at Deep South Homestead's thing if you want to go see us there. What else was I saying?
May, first
Paige, go
May.
clean up your mess right now. You may not get back up on the bed. You may get your mess cleaned up.
First weekend in May, we'll be up with Doug and Stacy.
I don't remember now. There was something else I wanted to share, and I don't remember what it was. Don't hit the spinning wheel, please.
Try not to.
All right, Helios is lurking
No,
too.
Helios.
What is wrong with you guys?
Helios chattered.
Did he? And I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Did I not see everybody else? Where's everybody been?
Well, you didn't push the blue button and stay up on.
I did. I pushed it 3 times. Okay. More lurkers. You guys are awful. Sunny Dio said they've been secretly guarding you like your own secret service, right? Except that I don't know they're there. So I think they are the problem.
Out on my own. Helios popped in.
Okay. I'll put all the links in. What was the other link I was? Oh.
A lot more wrenches than we thought.
I'll try and put all the videos in the cards if there's anything else. Okie Girl made. Oh, so Okie Girl, she's got rabbits that we went and got together too. But Okie doesn't make videos yet. We'll see if we can get her up there because she's done a really cracker job with hers. So anyway, I'm gonna stop talking because otherwise I'm never gonna get off. See ya.
Bye,